Good afternoon to all. Let me start the lab session on modeling and simulation of digital circuits. The lab session will be handled by myself along with Professor Marmik Soni. Some of the content of this lab session may be overlap with the previous session, uh, uh, but obviously the way of representation is somewhat different. Right. This is the outline for today's lab session. First, I will discuss related to introduction to HDL. Then I will give you the overview of Verilog as a HDL language. In detail, we will discuss the types of modeling styles like gate level modeling style, data flow modeling type style. Then we will move to the behavioral modeling style. We will discuss this modeling style by taking some sample programs, and we will also demonstrate the simulation of this program using the EDA tools for your understanding purpose. I request all of you to make the session interactive. At any stage, if you are having any doubt, you can unmute and ask the question. Fine. So now if I talk about the HDL, you know that it stands for Hardware Description Language. So using this language, we can able to describe the hardware. Obviously, it must be the digital hardware or digital circuit. So basically, this HDL language describes the behavior of a digital circuit, and it is used to derive or implement a digital circuit or system hardware. Right. So point is, it is normally used to describe the behavior of a digital circuits. Mainly, this HDL language is used to discover the faults in a given design before implementing it into the hardware. Right. In another way, these HDL languages are used. They are allowed to catch the design errors. See, normally while writing the code, it's a chance that some error may be there in our code, right? So that can be easily catch by using this type of HDL language. HDL language is also used for early performance estimation of a system architecture. What I want to say over here is, once the HDL code is written, we can able to perform the simulation. Now there are two type of simulations we can able to perform using the EDA tool. One is functional simulation and another one is timing simulation. So by conducting the timing simulation, we can able to estimate the performance of the given system architecture. Right. So it is normally used for early performance estimation of a system architecture. So this is also another use of using this HDL language. So as a coder, normally we write HDL code for a given design and simulate the design before it manufacture. Now, what is the need of simulation? Because the simulation guarantees that the design behave as it should be. Right. So normally before moving to the hardware, actual hardware, we need to simulate our design, and from that design, if possible, we will have to discover the faults and we will have to catch the errors. Right. After that only we can move for the actual hardware. So using this HDL language, we can able to express the simple as well as the complex design. You can see if the complex design is having this many number of gates, 10 power 7, then the implementation of this type of complex design can be also possible by using the HDL language. Fine. So nowadays, varieties of HDL languages are available in the market. In the previous session, Keyur has mentioned some of the HDL language, right? So, there, as I mentioned, there are so many HDL language available in the market. Among them, the Verilog and the VHDL are the most popular HDL. Apart from Verilog and VHDL, some another I can say the HDL language are like System Verilog, System C, E, etc., etc. But as far as the academics is concerned, normally we use this Verilog or VHDL as a part of our course curriculum, right? So in this lab session, we will focus on Verilog as a HDL language. So as I mentioned, this Verilog is used for digital circuit implementation as well as it is used for the verification purpose. What I want to say, we can able to implement any digital circuitry using this Verilog language, and we can also able to verify it. Right now, these two part like simulation and synthesis, obviously that can be performed by using the EDA tool. Once the circuit is implemented, we can able to simulate it using the EDA tool, and also we can able to synthesize it, right? And verification can be possible using the Verilog as a HDL language, right? So over here you can see I have categorically mentioned uh, the important features of Verilog HDL language. It is having support for structure and instantiation. What I want to say over here is, for example, let's say I want to implement 4-bit ripple carry adder, right? So what I can do, I will first implement 1-bit full adder. I repeat, I will first implement 1-bit full adder. I will take four instance of this 1-bit full adder. In the sense, I will create 4 copies of this 1-bit full adder, and I will connect this 4 full adder such that the final circuitry acting like a 4-bit ripple carry adder. Are you getting my point? So over here, as a coder, I need to implement only 1-bit full adder. My task is simple. Then I will have to create the 4 instance of this full adder, and at the end, I need to interconnect them such that my circuitry will be acting like this. So the Verilog is having support for structure as well as instantiation. It is also having the support for timing. If any activity I want to perform with reference to clock age, for example, let's say I want to implement the counter. You know that in a synchronous up counter, the count value will be incremented after each and every age of the clock. So if I want to perform any activity with reference to, let's say, the age of the clock, then this type of thing is possible using Verilog HDL. That's why I mentioned over here it is having support for timing. Okay, in detail we'll discuss later on. It is having also support for concurrency. What I want to say over here is, you know that in today's modern processor, they are using the pipeline architecture. What I want to say is the whole hardware of processor is broken into various stages like fetch stage, decode stage, and execution stage. The requirement is all these stages will have to work parallelly. They will have to work concurrently. So obviously, if I want to model that particular processor, I require the support for concurrency. So now this support is available in Verilog HDL. So easily I can able to implement this type of pipeline architecture. I hope it is understood. The Verilog is also having support for describing bit level behavior. Right. So using this Verilog HDL, we can able to manipulate the bit level data also. So I can say these are some of the important features of this Verilog HDL, Verilog as a HDL language. This Verilog is also used to build digital system or circuit using programmable logic device. I hope you familiar with this type of programmable device like FPGA and CPLD. FPGA stands for Field Programmable Gate Array, and CPLD stands for Complex Programmable Logic Device. Right? So I can able to burn my code into this programmable logic device, and I can able to build the digital system or circuit using this type of PLD devices. So this Verilog is also very useful in developing high-end sophisticated microprocessor or programmable SoC. SoC means that is system on chip, right? So these are, I can say, some of the features of Verilog. Any questions from your side? Okay. So now Verilog is having so many keywords, more than 100 keywords are available, and they basically define the language constructs. So some of the frequently used keywords I have mentioned over here, like module. So whenever we are writing the Verilog code, it has to be start from the keyword module. Then we will have to define the ports, right? And they should be separated by using the input and output as a keyword. If we want to store the value of output, then we will have to declare that output port as a range. One another popular keyword is wire. Keyword is wire, and another one is end module. So we will discuss in detail during the example. So as and when we are talking about modeling structure, what I want to say, how one can able to write the Verilog code. Okay, so the first point is we need to define the modules. So modules are the basic building block in Verilog. Okay, so you can see this is a template. This is a template. Using this template, normally we are writing our Verilog code. So you can see the code is that is starting. It is started from the keyword module. Over here, we need to define the name of the module, and over here we need to define the port list, right? And this module is always ended with the keyword end module, right? So modules can be always start with the keyword module. You can see this keyword I have highlighted using this blue color, and it should be always ended with the keyword end module. So these are the I can say most frequently used keyword whenever we will have to write the Verilog code: module and end module. One important point is modules can be interconnected. They can be connected together in order to describe the structure of a digital system, right? So it is not necessary that the module, in the sense one Verilog code is only having one module. You can put number of modules in a one Verilog file. So in that case, we need to interconnect the modules together to describe the structure of a digital system. So normally these modules are having port. They are having port for interconnection with other modules. What is port? Let me discuss in the next slide. I repeat, the modules are having port. Use of port, that is for interconnection with other modules. You can say ports are nothing but they are similar to pins on a chip. For example, if I talk about two input AND gate, right, it is obviously having two input and one output. So you can see if I want to write the Verilog code for this two input AND gate, then what I should do, I will have to write the keyword module, name of the module. Normally we do not use the keyword over here. Any name you can able to use over here. Then within this bracket, we need to specify all input and output port. Ports are nothing but normally, usually they are similar to pins or your IOs on a chip. Fine. Now over here, by using this keyword input and output, we need to separate the input port with the output port. As per this two input AND gate, it is having the input ports I0 and I1. So right, so they are specified over here with the keyword input, and it is having the output port which is O. So O is the output port. How compiler comes to know that O is the output port? So for that purpose, we need to write over here the keyword output, right? Over here we need to describe the logic, and this module is always ended with the keyword end module. And so normally this is a template. This is a template used by the coder. Alluding over here, you need to specify your logic. But these things are normally common in each and every this Verilog code. Okay.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
There is one question from Monica Gupta. She is asking that Verilog is known to be case sensitive, so module and end module will be different. Means, is it case sensitive or not? That's the basic question.
Yeah, obviously the Verilog is a case sensitive. So normally we need to define the keyword in lowercase. We will have to write the keyword in lowercase. So over here it's a typo mistake. Over here you will have to consider small m. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. One another question, yeah, and one question is that it should be module and end module. Yeah. So whenever we will have to write the Verilog code, it should be started with the keyword module and it should be ended with the keyword end module. Right? Over here we need to write the logic. How we can able to write the logic? I will explain. If you are having any other doubt, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Fine. So now how module can be described? So module can be described in any one or a combination of following modeling techniques. So in Verilog SDL, there are three modeling techniques using which, using one of or combination of this, we can able to describe the module. The modeling techniques are like gate level modeling. So gate level modeling is normally using instantiation of a primitive gates and the user defined modules. See, I gave the example of that 4-bit triple carry adder. Fine. So whenever we are using the gate level modeling, so if we are aware with the gate level diagram of any digital circuitry, then we can able to use this gate level modeling technique. For an example, full adder. You know that in a full adder, if you want to implement full adder on the breadboard, you will require XOR gate as well as you will require AND and OR gate. So if I am aware with the gate level diagram of any digital circuitry, I can go with the gate level modeling technique. Fine. So basically, this modeling technique describes the circuit by specifying the gates. So gates are available in Verilog language as a keyword, like AND gate, OR gate, etc., etc. Fine. So we will have to just interconnect them together in order to design the complex digital circuitry. If I talk about the data flow modeling technique, so in the previous lecture, the Keyur has mentioned, sometimes it is also referred as a RTL modeling technique. So what will happen in a data flow modeling technique normally uses the continuous assignment statement with the keyword assign. So using this modeling technique, we can able to transfer the data from one register to other register, right? So in order to use this data flow modeling technique, we will have to use the keyword assign. Assign, that is used for continuous assignment. We will take few examples later on, so you may be able to understand in detail. But normally this data flow modeling technique is used for describing the combinational circuitries. But if I talk about the behavioral modeling technique, it is using the procedural assignment statements with the keyword always. So always and initial, these are the two frequently used keyword if we are using behavioral modeling technique. So this technique is used to describe digital system at a higher level of abstraction. To make it more clear, intentionally I have put this slide. You can see, if I'm going with gate level modeling technique, then I will have to describe the module in terms of logic gates, and at the end, I will have to interconnect them. Fine. If I move to somewhat higher level of abstraction, that is data flow. So over here, the module is implemented by specifying that how the data will be flow between various registers. How data will be flow between various register. Example is, let's say assign A is equal to B ampersand C. Okay, so I need to use over here the keyword assign, and using that I can able to model any digital circuitry. But if I talk about the behavioral modeling, then basically over here the modules are described with high level algorithm. For an example, if so, okay, let me discuss in another way. So over here, if I want to use the gate level modeling technique, as I mentioned, I must aware with the gate level diagram of a digital circuitry. Now, for example, if I'm not aware with the gate level diagram, let's say I am aware with the Boolean expression for the given digital circuitry, then I may use this data flow modeling technique. I can easily implement any damn Boolean expression using this data flow modeling technique. Now, let's say I am not aware with the gate level diagram, as well as I am also not aware with the Boolean expression. I am only aware with the behavior, with the functionality of the given digital circuitry. For an example, if I talk about the behavior of D flip-flop, it's an asynchronous D flip-flop. You know the behavior. If there is a reset, then Q must be 0. If there is no reset, and if there is the age of the clock, then what D flip-flop has to do? It has to transfer the value of its input to the output. That is the behavior. So if I know the behavior, the functionality of a given digital circuitry, then I can use this behavioral modeling technique. Another example is, for example, let's say the counter, synchronous up counter. What is the functionality of up counter? If reset, count value must be 0. If there is no reset, and if there is the age of the clock, then count value has to be incremented by 1. Yes or no? So if you are aware with this type of functionality or behavior of a given digital circuit, then you may use this modeling technique. The comparison between this modeling technique was already discussed in the previous this session by the KU. Fine. So in this lab session, what we have planned, this gate level modeling technique and data flow modeling technique will be discussed by my fellow coordinator, Professor Marmik. Right? Yeah, he will discuss this two modeling technique by taking some examples. Yes, any doubt? Okay, and this behavioral modeling technique will be taken care by me. Right. So now I request Professor Marmik to discuss these two modeling technique.
Thank you, sir, for the fundamentals of the Verilog HDL. Good evening, all the participants. Let me just share my screen. So the agenda for my part is I'll be showing you how to use the tool Intel Quartus for the designing of the digital circuit using Verilog HDL. Also, I'll be making you aware about gate level modeling and data flow modeling technique. I'll be also showing you the demonstration of complete designing through the with the help of the Quartus tool. And after that, I'll be handing over the session again to Nitesh, sir. So as you know, 3 basic modeling styles are there in the Verilog HDL. The first one is gate level modeling. The second one is data flow modeling, and the third one is behavioral modeling. So as you can see over here, I have taken one very basic example of XOR gate implementation. So On the left hand side, you can see we have got the module. Then after, whatever name you want to give, you can give to that module. And into the bracket, we can define the ports that we want to use. Ports, those we want to use. Then after, we are required to mention what inputs are there, what outputs are there. And then comes the gate part. In my requirement of the design, I need just one single XOR gate. So I have written over here XOR, that is the primitive predefined interpretation is there in the Verilog HDL when I'm writing XOR. Then after, I have written the name of that primitive, that is XOR1. And now the structure is like that. Whichever variable I'm writing first will be considered as the output port, and then after, all the other ports will be considered as the input port. So suppose you want to implement 3 input XOR gate, you will be writing one more port over here C, you will be adding one more port over here A, B, C, and in this case out comma A comma B comma C will be your code. Then after, it will be followed by the semicolon. And as sir has explained, at the end, every time we are writing AND module without space in the Verilog HDL code. So the Quartus tool will be generating from this code, it will be generating this kind of RTL view. Sir also has explained about the functional and timing mode output. So when we are simulating a design in the Quartus tool, we have the option of getting the functional mode output and the timing mode output. So as you can predict from the name, functional mode output will be just focusing on the basic functionality without considering the hardware delay from the selected hardware. But timing mode, as you compare these two waveforms, you can see that over here we are getting the output over, at this particular time instance when your A is changing from 0 to 1. So this is the proper expected output from us from the implemented circuit. But as you can see over here, in the timing mode output, it is taking some delay before giving you the output. So the similar kind of delay is appearing over here. The similar kind of delay is also appearing over here as compared to this particular output. So as I said, timing mode, if you are selecting, it will be considering the hardware delay from the end FPGA device family that you have chosen while creating the project. So as you understood by now that for getting the use of each of the gate, we are requiring one separate line to be written as mentioned in this code. So this example I have taken for the MUX, which is 4x1 multiplexer. So it will be having, as you all know, 4x1 multiplexer will be having 4 inputs, A, B, C, D. 2 selection lines will be there, S0, S1, and 1 output will be there. So actually, this is the code of multiplexer 4x1 using Verilog, but with the help of gate level modeling. So as you can see, module is mentioned over here, ports are mentioned over here, the IOs are mentioned over here, and then after, for each of the gate requirement, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as well as these NOT gates that we need over here, which are mentioned as bubble over here in the RTL view. So for each of them, you can see we have written one separate line for each of the gate. Okay. So let me mention this also. As you can see, many of the ports A, B, C, D, S0, S1 are the input ports which are available at the extreme left. Output is the output port which is available at the extreme right. But suppose if we take the example of this particular NATE, then it is having the output from the AND gate, and the same is going to the input of the OR gate. So the same variable is being used as the input over as the input over here and as the output over here. For this kind of expression, we have the data type which is called wire. So wires are not the ports, but you can say in normal language these are the internal variables. So these are the wires which are required to be written in this code. So I hope the primary idea you people have got by this simple code with the help of gate level modeling. Now, what I'll be doing, I'll be showing later on the implementation of similar kind of multiplexer with the help of data flow modeling also. So just remember that we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines over here for just designing one 4x1 multiplexer. So as you have understood by now, gate level modeling over each of the logic gate, each of the circuit is being explained in the form of logic gates and the interconnection in between. It provides us the textual description of gate level schematic actually. And as you have seen so far, different gate primitives are available in the Verilog HDL, which are mentioned over here. So in general, without keeping any particular design in mind, I'm showing you just the expression where I have explained AND, NAND, OR, NOR, XOR, XNOR. So you can see that this AND, NAND, OR are the primitives, and A1, NA1, OR1, NOR1, X1 are the primitive names. User can give any of the name as per the as to make the understanding easier. I cannot write NOR over here because it will be considered as the keyword. Okay, it will be considered as the keyword. So if more than, as I explained, more than 2 inputs are there, we'll have to simply write it down like this. Okay. In the case of different instructions, yes, Verilog HDL is case sensitive, but for the input output, you can mention any of the case, not an issue. So now the question is, simple 4x1 multiplexer requires 7 lines of codes at least. Then what will happen if we have thousands of gates or hundreds of gates at least? Then what will be the situation? It will be very hectic for us to write down one separate line for this each of the gates, as well as we'll have to mention this kind of internal variables also. So it will be going to be very hectic job for us. So in that case, the second kind of modeling helps us, which is data flow modeling. For small circuits, it is completely fine to have the proper view with the help of gate level modeling. But as the gates are increasing, it is going to be very complex task. So instead of writing one separate line for each of the gate, we can go for the data flow modeling, where by the understanding of the basic operators, just by getting the feel of the equation, suppose you have the equation in the form of SOP or POS, or from the truth table you have derived the equation, suppose app equal to A bar, B bar, C, A plus B plus C, and so on, ABC, means any of the SOP or POS form of equation, any equation is there, you can just simply convert that equation into the form of equation, and that equation you can use. That single line equation will be enough for you to implement the complete circuit. So this assignment is continuous assignment. Continuous assignment means what? Whatever data change is there, the same will be appearing at the output immediately without any kind of delay. So as sir mentioned, the data is flowing between the different registers. So by the help of data flow modeling, we can design any kind of RTL circuits. So let us, without going for the description part, let us go with the actual design of the circuit with the help of data flow modeling. So basic operators which are helpful to us for the data flow modeling are mentioned over here. Suppose, for example, I can take one simple example, like negation can be done with the help of this exclamation mark, with this negation sign. Ending can be done with this ampersand sign. Pipe can be used for the ORing operation. This caret can be used for the XOR, and this negation caret can be used for the XNOR. Similarly, suppose we want to go for the NAND, we can use negation ampersand. Suppose we want to go for the NOR, we can use negation pipe. Similar kind of other operators are also available. which one can use with the detailed understanding of all the operators, like concatenation is there, conditional operator is there. We also will be covering this conditional operator in the data flow modeling. This relational operations will be covered by the behavioral modeling part later on. So this is one simple example that I have taken where full adder logic is explained over here. So as you can see, S means sum. The equation, as you can see over here, X, XOR Y, XOR Z is explained in such a simpler manner. Similarly, the equation for carry we have written like this. Okay, so if you have the equation of the particular combinational circuit, simply that can be converted with the help of operators into the data flow modeling code. So this was just the logic for sum and carry. This is the equation of sum and this is the equation of carry. But how the code will look like if we are converting the logic into the form of Verilog code. So in the full adder, module is mentioned. Whatever kind of name you want to give, you can give, but just be careful. It should not be same as any basic keyword available in the Verilog. Like I cannot write down XOR because it is already primitive used for the expression of the XOR gate. Then over here, ports are mentioned into the bracket, inputs, outputs, and the logic over here. The interpretation of assign is giving us continuous assignment. Continuous assignment means any of the variable is changing on the right hand side, the same will be creating the impact immediately on the variable at the output side. And at the end, as you know, AND module. Okay, so as you have just seen the code 4x1 multiplexer, it was requiring 7 lines just for writing 4x1 multiplexer. Over here, if you have observed, then there is no need of wire or internal variable, and simply the equation is converted into the form of a single Verilog line. Okay, single code of line. So this is going to be the difference between the gate level modeling and data flow modeling. The basic difference, the first difference. It is more intuitive for the user that if you know the equation, then immediately the equation will pop up in your mind. So this will be the similar kind of RTL is there. See, if you have remembered this RTL, so this is 4x1 multiplexer RTL with the help of this gate level modeling code, and this is 4x1 multiplexer RTL with the help of data flow modeling. Okay, so this one is conditional operator. So similar kind of use is there in the other languages also. So it is like S0 is 1, then A will be conveyed to the output. Otherwise, B will be conveyed to the output. So if the condition which is mentioned over here is true, then A will be conveyed at the output. Otherwise, B will be conveyed at the output. So it will be generating this kind of RTL view in the Quartus tool. Quartus tool steps and RTL view, how to get the RTL view, I'll be explaining to you after this description. Now let us get back to the practical approach where we are going to have the designing with the help of Quartus tool. All of you have got probably the RTL, this Quartus software link available in your Quartus software link you have got, and probably some of you have already installed this software. So now I'll be writing the code from the scratch and we'll be starting everything from scratch, at least for one project. Later on, I'll be showing you other projects directly, but at least one project I want to demonstrate from scratch. So this will be the window from the Quartus software. File, new. We are designing a circuit with the help of Verilog HDL. Now, we'll be writing module. Suppose I'm writing some random name. In the process of mentioning the ports over here, you can maintain any of the order. It is not going to matter at all. Inputs I'll be mentioning. Any name you can give for the input and output ports. Suppose I want to explain XNOR. So I can write it down like this. There is nothing new in this code, but at least I want to be, I want you people to be sure about the process at least once. Now I'll be sharing this Verilog, I'll be saving this Verilog one file. So I'll be creating one separate folder, just not to confuse the Quartus tool. So I'll be giving the same name as my module name, which I have mentioned in the Verilog code. It is asking me that do you want to create a new project or not? So it is advisable for each of the new design, you should be creating one separate project and separate folder also. So one care that you'll have to take, one more care you'll have to take is whatever module name is there, the same name is compulsory in the Verilog HDL file name. Otherwise, it will be showing you the error. Okay, so yes, we want to create the new project. Next, it is showing me the directory where my project is going to be stored. Next. Now, this part is important. Over here, which FPGA family you want to target, it is being asked to us. Suppose we have the basic Cyclone family available, Cyclone 2, and the hardware available with us is this one, and I'm selecting that. It is showing us a target family where you want to load your program. And next, and finish. Now, the next step will be the compilation of the project. So the design is being compiled. You can see the progress over here. So different processes are being covered during the compilation process. So all those details are available in these reports. So this shows us the flow summary for the project. So as you can see, the total logic element being used by my design is just one out of 18,752 logic elements which are available in this particular FPGA device family. Okay. So you can see, you can just anticipate the capability of the family, logic family, which is one of the ordinary, the basic one I have selected. Similarly, it is just using 3 total pins out of 315 pins available. So A, B, and out, these 3 basic pins are being used by the design. Okay. Now the next part will be, we'll have to create the stimulus for the design. See, it is saying that AND gate is, XOR gate is implemented over here. I've taken the XNOR gate over here. So XNOR gate is going to be designed by this particular logic, but we'll have to check it that whether it is giving us the expected output or not. So for that process, we'll have to design the input stimulus. For that part, we'll have to take vector waveform file. Then double click over here. Node finder. Node finder means whatever ports are available in your code, those will be listed over here. In my case, it is just having 3 ports, A, B, and out. So I'll be taking them into the vector waveform file by clicking this and then OK. Then OK. Now I'll have to design the input pattern for A and B. As you know, output we are not designing, we are just designing the input ports. So for designing of input ports, we'll be covering all the basic possibilities for the gate, for the testing of the gate. So I'll be covering 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1 cases at least. Then I'll have to save this vector waveform file. Vector waveform file means the waveforms, the stimulus waveforms you are giving. Okay, so I have saved that design. Now, once the input stimulus is designed, then after we'll have to simulate the design with the help of this input stimulus. So for that purpose, we'll be going to processing, simulator tool. Over here, 2 of the options are there, functional and timing. So I'm selecting functional for now. Now I'm starting the simulation process, and the report is generated already by the tool. Now we'll have to check that whether the output is as per our expectation or not. We have given the name AND, but we have actually designed XNOR gate. Now, as you can see, wherever you are seeing A and B same, at that time the output will be 1, otherwise the output will be 0. Okay, so 1 1, both of them are same, output is 1. 0 0, both of them are same, at that time output is 1. So yes, the waveforms are appearing as if already the XNOR gate is implemented. There is one feature in Quartus, that tools netlist viewer, RTL viewer. This, which RTL is understood by the tool, is going to be shown in this particular section. So as you can see, XNOR gate is already implemented by our code. So this is one simplest of the flow. This is one simplest of the example, just to understand the flow of the Quartus tool. Yes, for now the process is appearing very complex. I can easily understand with that if you have not been comfortable so far with the Quartus then. But I have provided you one document where all the steps are mentioned in detail. So at least for 2-3 times you can just follow that manual if you are new to Quartus, and then after it will be completely easy for you, just whatever I have explained to you so far. Okay, so this is one of the simplest gate level modeling I have made available with me. I have prepared a few of the other projects also. I'll be demonstrating those projects to you very quickly. So I'll have to close this project and open new project. So suppose I can explain 2x1 multiplexer with the help of gate level modeling simply. So this one is simplest of the code, which I have explained with the help of gate level modeling. Okay. So the waveform for this gate level modeling, I have already shown to you in the PPT. So let us, we'll be compiling some other design. This one is the easier one. Okay. So at least I can show you the RTL view. Okay, compilation is successfully done. We have someone joining. Yes. Okay, compilation is successfully done. Total pins over here 7. Let us just check the RTL view for this implementation. Yes, A and B, 2 of the inputs are there. S is the selection line. So when S is 1, at that time A will be conveyed over here and over here at the output. Similarly, when S is 0, B will be conveyed over here. Okay. There's wires I have mentioned over here, and those are already mentioned over here in the port. So just have your attention over here, everyone. Let us see what happens when I'm removing these ports from this list. Right now, if I'm mentioning those ports, the ports are available over here. Z1, Z2, Z3 are in the form of ports. Okay. Now, as we change the part over here, this part over here, let us see what changes we are getting in the RTL view. Z1, yes. I'll have to mention them as wires. Yes, I'll have to remove them from this. See, whenever you are writing some code and if you are compiling, if there is no error in first 4 to 10%, there will not be any basic syntax error, at least from your design, Verilog design. And if some error appears, you'll have to just look at this error tab over here. Whatever error is there, just read that error. You will be having the intuition that what mistake you have made in your design. Normally, the semicolons, people are making initially the mistakes with this semicolon. As you can see, N module is not having the semicolon. All the other parts are having the semicolon available. Okay. Now let us check what RTL it has designed. See, now Z1, Z2 are not available in the, just a second. Z things are not available over here as they are removed from the port list. So whichever gray part you are seeing over here, those are called ports. And this part is actually the NATE, Z part. Okay. So how many NATEs are there? One after this NOT gate, second over here, third over here. The three are the NATEs. So if you have any queries so far with the process, just tell me. Otherwise, I can demonstrate you a couple of more designs with the help of data flow modeling and conditional operators. Any queries so far?
Sir, can you repeat
the process?
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. The next design is there, which I want to demonstrate is 4x1 multiplexer with the help of data flow modeling. I'll be definitely explaining the process once again. Just wait for a while. Okay. Okay, this one is with the help of conditional operator. Let me first go with the simple design like 2x1 multiplexer with the help of conditional operator. Yes. So in the case of conditional operator, as I have already explained, this will be the 2x1 multiplexer design. Okay. Where S0, actually, this is the condition which is being checked. Whatever is there before the question mark, it is actually the condition. If S0 condition is true, means S0 is 1, then A will be conveyed to the output, otherwise B will be conveyed to the output. Okay. So if we compile this one, we'll be having the same expected design available in the RTL view. So Quartus is actually earlier it was known as Altera Quartus. Then Altera got taken over by Intel, and right now it is Intel Quartus. Okay. So this is the summary of our design tools. At least we can check the RTL view. So this is a 2x1 multiplexer. Selection line, A/B inputs, and output is there. You can also check the waveform. I'll be showing you one complete process with the help of waveform also before ending my time. Yes. So we can go for this thing is appearing over here. Yes. Yes, 4x1 with the help of okay. There's one interesting design I'll be showing you. Let me copy paste this code first, and I'll be starting everything once again as it is being requested by the participant. So I'm completely switching off my Quartus tool, and I'm starting whole process once again. It will be not taking much time. Yes. We have got one query, how to set waveforms. Yes, I'll be explaining that. Okay, so this is a by default window which is appearing when you are installing the Quartus and opening it. It is initializing the tool. So depending on the system, it will take a few of the seconds. One of my mentors when I was in MTech, he used to say, whenever the system is taking some time to initialize, you should go for 2-3 sessions of pranayam. Okay, so file new Verilog HDL file. For the quick execution, I'm quickly copying the code for one interesting design where I have designed multiplexer 4x2. 4x1 multiplexer I have designed with the help of 2x1 multiplexer. So this is actually called instantiation. So as we have already available some of the files like not and or some of the basic primitives available in the Verilog. Similarly, we can design our own file also. Because as we know, something is designed for once, and if we want to use the similar thing for number of times in different projects, we should not be writing everything once again, right? So in my case, multiplexer 2x1 I have written over here. So this is the code for gate level, very simple gate level code I have written over here for 2x1 multiplexer. Okay, I have explained this thing earlier. Okay, this 1, 2, 3, 4 gates are there. Okay, wires are there, outputs are there, inputs are there. So this one I have written already. Now my requirement has changed, and I want to use I want to design 4x1 multiplexer. So I have written module 4x1, that will be my 4x1 multiplexer. Inputs I have mentioned, outputs I have mentioned over here. Okay, and this part is important. Someone is joining. Yes. So what I need to do over here, I'll have to simply write down this module name over here, and then after I'll be defining this module. This 4x1 multiplexer is actually requiring 3 2x1 multiplexer. So 3 times I'll have to mention mux 2x1, mux 2x1, mux 2x1. The first one I'll be naming as mux_1, second mux_2, mux_3. If you have the basic idea about the 4x1 multiplexer, then this will not be very difficult for you. See, actually what we are doing over here, I0, I1, I'm passing as the variable A and B to my 2x1 multiplexer. Over here, I2, I3 is being passed as A and B to this 2x1 multiplexer. So this S1 over here is selection line, S1 selection line, and whatever output comes, that will be going to the third multiplexer as mux1 and mux2. So over here, I have maintained the order. See, the first one is my output. Over here also, first one is my output. This will be more clear once we are going to the RTL view. Okay, so yes, those who are not clear still with the process, just have their attention over here. So as I have written new code in my new project, okay, I'll have to save the code. So Control S, save. Then I'll be dedicating one separate folder. I'm using the same folder. I'll be naming it as mux mx demo. I'm naming something different, mx demo. Okay, can someone tell me what I'll have to do if I'm changing this as mx demo? What I'll have to do, I'll have to name mx_demo over here for the better understanding, as well as, yes, it is asking that, do you want to create a new project or not? Yes, definitely we want to create a new project with this new design. Okay, then it will be asking us the directory. Yes, we are fine with the current directory selection. The next, just a second. See, once again, whichever FPGA family is there, see, there are two of the parts. Many times we do not need our design to be loaded in the FPGA. Many times it is required to be loaded in the FPGA. So even without loading in the FPGA, with the help of tool, with the help of the shown process to you, you can check your Verilog code. Okay, it is behaving as per your expectation or not. You can check that. So today's manual that I have shared with you, that is just mentioning the part up to the testing of your Verilog code. Okay, if you want to load your code into the FPGA, for that, Saturday I have shared one extra manual for you. Okay, so you can refer that. It has easily explained the process of burning the code in the FPGA also. Okay, so two of the manuals are shared with you. Okay, so I'm selecting the FPGA family. cyclone 2, next, finish. So what I need to do over here, see, I want to show you that if I'm not keeping the same name over here, it should be showing me error, right? So right now it is MUX4X1, as I have copied this from somewhere else, right? From the earlier code which is already made, project which is already made. Let's try that is showing us the error or not, right? What it should be expecting, it should be expecting MX underscore demo. So it should be showing me error as per my expectation. Let us see what the tool says. Yes, you can see MX underscore demo is undefined. Means you have not defined MX underscore demo anywhere, and you are saying that the top level entity is MX demo. Matlab, the Verilog file is MX demo. No issues. Let us change MX underscore demo, right? Control S, compilation. Let us check the tool is happy or not. Yes, no errors. Fine. So, okay, so the successful compilation is there. Yes, then the next thing will be, can anyone tell me? I have already explained this thing earlier. Can anyone tell me what will be the next step once the code is compiled? Then after, I want at least one of the participants to answer this thing. Please. No one? Fine. Okay. So the compilation is done. Then after, we'll have to check whether what hardware it has understood, what hardware the tool has understood. For that, tools, RTL view. See, 3 blocks are shown over here. Actually, these 3 blocks are the instantiation of the earlier NUX2X1 design that you have made. If I double click this thing, it will be showing me this particular design, which was which is there because of the code you have mentioned over here, MUX2X1, this part. Okay, this part actually we are using thrice by mentioning it over here, right? So the RTL view will be having 3 such kind of 2x1 multiplexer. Okay, 3 such kind of 2x. As you can see over here, selection line is S1. So when the S1 is 1, A will be conveyed over here, and sorry, I0 will be conveyed over here, and I2 will be conveyed over here. Now from I0 and I2, which one will be chosen? So it will be dependent on this S0. If S0 is 1, this I0 will be going at the output. If S0 is 0, this I2 will be going at the output. So in short, depending on the situation of S0 and S1, one of the variable will be conveyed to the output. Okay. Now see, RTL view, from RTL view, we cannot every time anticipate what waveforms will be appearing in my actual hardware. So for that purpose, we'll have to, as I already explained, we'll have to design the input stimulus waveform, and we'll have to give those input stimulus waveform to the Verilog design, right? So for that purpose, we'll have to go for file, then new, then vector waveform file, double click over here, node finder, all the ports mentioned in my Verilog code I am including in the VWF file, vector waveform file. Okay, okay. For the easy understanding, I'm taking all the inputs over here and output over here, right? Now I'll have to design the waveforms, right? For that purpose, I0, see, variety of options are available over here. So I0 I'm taking as clock. It is of 10 nanosecond. I'm keeping it as 10 nanosecond clock. I1 clock of suppose 15 nanosecond. I2 I'm taking it as of 20 nanosecond. I3, you can take anything, right? Anything you can keep over here. It is not mandatory that you just need to give clock every time, right? Suppose for S0, I want to cover all the 4 possibilities of S0, S1, right? So S0 I have clicked, then you can see waveform editing tool, right? So 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1. So all the 4 basic possibilities I have covered for S0, S1. Let us see what happens at the output. So I'm saving this waveform file in the same folder. Save. The next step is simulation. See everyone, the design is compiled. The design is the waveform file for the input simulation. Input stimulus is already designed, right? Then the next thing will be processing simulator tool. We are going for the functional simulation for the ease of understanding. Okay, functional simulation start. Simulation has started just, and report. So let us see. When both the inputs S0 and S1 are 0, can anyone tell me output is appearing like which input variable? Can anyone tell me? Output is appearing as if it is same as which variable?
Sir, I0.
Yes, perfect. Output is same as I0 when both the inputs are S0 and S1 are 0, right? Similarly, when 0, 1 is there, you can just observe this part. Okay, over here it is appearing as if it is same as I1. Okay, so this and this, I1 and output, both of them are same. Let us move further. 1, 0. In that case, I2 is being copied to the output, right? So output is same as I2. And the last case where both the S0 and S1 are 1, at that time I3 is being conveyed to the output, right? So when both of them are 0, I0 is conveyed, 0, 1, I1, 1, 0, I2, and 1, 1. At that time I3 is being conveyed. So yes, the RTL view, the internal hardware understanding of the Quartus tool is as per our expectation, as well as the waveforms are also as per our expectation, right? So in this particular code, two concepts are two things I have tried to explain. Number one, we can reuse this particular mux2x1 n number of times as per our requirement in the code, right? And once again, I have repeated the complete flow of the Quartus tool. Okay, so there are plenty of other analysis are also available. Like you can go for functional mode simulation, timing mode simulation. You can check the timing report also. You can check the power consumption report also. You can check the hardware requirement of your Verilog code also, right? So variety of plenty of options are there. So for the advanced users, definitely you can take the help of different reports generated over here, like this timing analysis. This is the delay analysis. So from which pin to which pin, from so and so pin to output, this much delay is there. S1 to output, this much delay is there. So detailed analysis will be giving to you. Okay. So do you have any other query? Then you can definitely ask me. So yes, this thing we have done already. 2x1 multiplexer we have used for the 4x1 multiplexer implementation. 4x1 multiplexer code, 2x1 multiplexer code. Yes, this is what I want to convey you for the easiest and quickest understanding of the flow of the Quartus tool. So first of all, we have written the code. We have saved the code. In the process, we have created the new project. We have selected the FPGA family. Once the project is created, the Verilog code is saved, then the next thing is compilation. Suppose some syntax error is there or any other basic errors are there, then it will be showing you error during the compilation process. The next thing will be simulation. Simulation requires input file. For that purpose, we have taken help of the GUI of Quartus, which is named as VWF file, vector waveform file. Vector waveform file we are designing with the help of node finder and so process. Then we are saving that file in the same folder and we are simulating our design, right? And over there we have two of the options, timing mode and functional mode. These things are done. you can just analyze your output waveform. You can just make some change in the code if it is required. You can even check the RTL view, the timing analysis, the power consumption analysis, everything you can check. For the selected family, the output of timing and power will be same, right? If you are changing the logic family during the creation of the project, the things will be changing at the resources which is being used by the project. I hope uh, you people are clear at least with the basic process of the Quartus. You can take help of the manual that I have shared, or definitely you can reach me out if further help is required. If you have any query, then definitely you can ask over here. Any query so far? Okay. Okay, so gate level and data flow modeling technique we have covered just, and yes, definitely the Quartus design flow. I'm handing over the session back to Mitesh sir for the behavioral modeling part. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Marmik sir, for explaining the the data flow and gate level modeling technique, and also discussing the steps that how to use the EDA tool. Now, let me discuss the very popular modeling technique, which is known as a behavioral modeling technique. I hope my slide is visible. So basically, this behavioral modeling technique is used to describe the system at a high level of abstraction. What I want to say that if you are aware with the functionality, with the behavior of a given digital circuitry, then you can use this behavioral modeling technique. So basically, this behavioral modeling technique uses the high level language constructs like a traditional programming language. Some of the keywords of this behavioral modeling technique are case, if, else if, forever, while, etc., etc. So these are the language constructs you normally use in a traditional programming language like C or C++. Fine. Normally, this behavioral modeling technique consists of set of concurrently active procedural block. What I want to say over here is procedural block means there are two procedural blocks appears in this modeling technique. One is initial and another one is always. What we need to define within this block, you can see in this initial block, we will have to define initial conditions. And also we can able to define the test fixtures in order to generate the test vectors. Alternatively, in order to generate the stimulus, we will have to define the test cases, where we can able to define the test case within the initial block. And this always block always consists of procedural statements. Let me give one example so you people may understand more in detail. So look at this sets of code. So over here you can see in this initial block, what I did, I have assigned logic 0 to the clock. Means I want to start the clock from the level 0. So that will declare as a part of initial block. And you can see in the always block, what I did, I have written one procedural statement. You can see the logic is appear in the always block. What I am doing, you can see I have put one delay element, that is #10. And what I am doing, I have used over here the negate operator. So what happens over here, that level of clock, initially the level is 0. The level of clock is inverted after every 10 time unit. The time unit may be nanosecond, it may be picosecond, or it may be second. That depends upon the simulator. Fine. So over here you can see the initial level of the clock is inverted after 10 time unit. Okay, so what should be the total period of clock form over here? Can I say 20 time unit? It's a total period of the clock. So by using this type of code, one can able to generate the clock signal. You can able to vary over here the value, the delay value depends upon your requirement. So you can see clock as a port I have declared within this module. I have declared that clock as an output port, and I have declared this clock as a range because you can see I want to generate the continuous clock, right? So in order to toggle it, I need to declare this clock as a range over here. Fine. Now, if I talk about the template for the always block, you can see this is a syntax or this is a template. This always block always start with the keyword always followed by the symbol at the rate, and within this parenthesis we will have to define the sensitivity list, right? Then this always block is always start with the keyword begin, it will be always end with the keyword end, and over here we need to write the procedural statements. You may use a case statement, you may use if else statement, you may use loop statement, while statement. So plenty of keywords are supported in Verilog SDL in order to define this procedural statement. Let me take one example so you may understand in detail. So over here I have modeled a 4x1 mux using behavioral modeling technique. Marmik sir had already discussed how one can able to model 4x1 mux using gate level modeling technique and data flow modeling technique. Over here I have modeled the similar digital circuitry using behavioral modeling technique. As I mentioned, if you aware with the behavior of this particular digital circuitry, then you can use the behavioral modeling technique. What is the behavior of 4x1 mux? All of you know that whenever the selection lines are 0, 0, the value of first input will be transferred to your output. And as and when value of selection line are 1, 1, the value of last input will be transferred to the output, right? So in order to do this, I have used over here case statement, and in the parenthesis I have written SEL. What is SEL? Selection line. And what is the size of this input? 2 bit, because it's a 4x1 mux, so obviously 2 selection lines are required. And you can see I have defined over here input with the vector declaration. What is the size of input? 4 bit. So as and when the selection lines are 0, 0, you can see 2 is a size of this input selection line. B indicates binary. So if value of selection lines are 0, 0, then value of first input, that is IN0, will be transferred to the out. Out is declared as an output port over here. If selection line value is 0, 1, then value of this input will be transferred to out. Like that way, if the selection line is 1, 1, then value of last input will be transferred to the output port out. So over here, all the 4 possibilities are covered. So this case statement is AND with the keyword AND case. This is the end of this always block, and this AND module indicates the ending of this particular module, whose name is mux4_1. Fine. So if you look at the quarters 2 implementation for it, you can see already I have created the project in advance. This is the Verilog code. This is the vector waveform file. Look at this. What I did over here, I have set this to selection line SEL1 and SEL0 with the value 1, right? So SEL0 and SEL1 both are 1, 1. So can you tell me which input is selected in that case? Can I say IN3? So if you look at the simulation result, you can see the waveform of input IN3 and the waveform of this output port out, both are same. Look at this. Fine. So in vector waveform file, if I change the value of selection line, based upon their value, one of the input is selected and its value will be transferred to the output port out, right? So over here intentionally I have used the case statement. If we take another example, let's say JK flip flop. So what is the functionality or what is the behavior of JK flip flop? You already aware. If J and K both are 0 0, then the flip flop will be entered into the memory state. If J and K are 0 1, then your output will be 0. If J is 1 and K is 0, then output will be set. And if J and K both are 1 1, then the output has to be toggle. So you can see how I have written the always block over here. Instead of using case statement, I have used over here if else ladder. So you are already familiar with how to write the code using this if else ladder, right? So in the bracket, I have written pausage of the clock. So all these statements are executed whenever there is a pausage of the clock, or as and when this hardware is getting positive edge of the clock. So at that time, whenever the positive edge of the clock is coming, this hardware will check the value of J and K as an input. If both are found to be 0 0, then the value of Q will remain as it is. But if value of J and K both are 1 1, then what this hardware is doing, it will toggle the output. Let me show you the quarters 2 implementation for this particular JK flip flop. You can see this is the similar Verilog code which I have explained using my PPT. So you can see this is the code is very simple. You will have to write the if and else statement only, right? And you can see this is the vector waveform file. What I did, I have assigned the clock to the input variable clock. Value of J and K both are 1 1. So if you look at the simulation report, you can see this output Q is continuously toggle at each and every positive edge of the clock. Initially you can see Q is 0. At a first positive edge of the clock, the Q becomes toggle. Now it becomes 1. It remains 1 up to the next pause edge of the clock. Over here, now the Q once again toggles because value of J and K both are 1 1. It remains 0 up to the next positive edge. Over here, once again, it is toggle. Now it reaches to logic 1. So this logic 1 will be maintained up to the next pause edge. Once again, it becomes toggle over here, right? So by this way, one can able to, I can say, model any digital circuitry. Any question over here? Can I say it is simple to write the Verilog code for any digital circuitry? You may use over here the case statement also. Okay. Similarly, one interesting example I have considered over here. Let's say I want to model 4-bit synchronous up counter. Which are the input and output ports for this synchronous up counter? Obviously, reset and clock. They are acting as an input port, and as I want to design the counter of 4-bit, you can see I have used one port whose name is count, and the size of this port is 4-bit 0, 3 to 0. Okay, so these are my input port. This is my output port whose size is 4-bit. Okay, so now how I can able to write the always block? You can see in the parenthesis what I have written: pausage of clock or negage of reset, right? And my always block, you can see is starting with the reset condition. It is first checking the reset. If reset is found to be low, then 0 value is assigned to the output port count. If there is no reset and if there is a positive edge of the clock, then you can see the count value is simply incremented by 1. So this is the procedural statement. What I need to write down? Count equal to count plus 1. So at each and every positive edge of the clock, this count value is incremented by 1. Are you getting my point? This is the end of always block, and this is the end of this module. Okay, so first we will have to check the condition for the reset. If there is a reset, then 0 value is assigned to this count variable. But if there is no reset and if there is a positive edge of the clock, then count value has to be simply incremented by 1. Now, if I give you one assignment that, let's say, instead of designing 4-bit synchronous up counter, let's say I want to design mode 6 synchronous up counter. Mode 6 means the counter has to be start from the count sequence 0 and it has to reach up to the count sequence 5. Once it is reaches to count sequence 5, it has to be restart. It has to be reset from the count sequence 0. Can you able to design mode 6 up counter? Can you suggest the modification in the existing code? Anyone? What I should do in order to design mode 6 synchronous up counter? In the sense, how I can restrict my count sequence up to 6 only. What I should do?
Sir, can we add this condition to the first if statement, like if not reset and count is equal to 6?
Fine, good answer. So you can see this is the code. First, we will have to check the reset condition. If there is a reset, obviously we need to assign 0 to the this count variable. Now we need to write over here additional logic. You can see what I have written. If there is no reset, then we will have to check the count value. If it is equal to 6, then what we will have to do? We will have to assign the 0 to the count variable, because we will have to restart the counter from the 0. Fine. So over here, this is the additional statement. Else if count equal to 6. If this condition is satisfied, then 0 is transferred to this variable. Else this is the same logic, that count is equal to count plus 1. So you can see. Just a minute. Yeah. So this is the code for mode 6 counter. And if you look at the simulation result, you can see the counter will be start from the count sequence 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just a minute. Yeah. And after 5, you can see the count sequence will be once again start from 0. Right? It has to be once again reach to count sequence 5. And once it is reaches to 5, once again the counter has to be restart. Okay. So only I need to put this much amount of additional logic in order to convert the 4-bit synchronous up counter into the mode 6 synchronous up counter. Any question over here? Is it understood? Okay. Similarly, if you want to design the complex circuitry, like let's say FSM, finite state machine, I hope all of you are available that as and when we are talking about this FSM, normally it consists of the block related to next state logic, present state logic, and the output logic. Okay, so there are two type of FSM. One is Murray and another one is Mealy. Fine. So over here, this next state logic is implemented by using combinational logic, whose role is to decide the next state. The present state in right over here, we need to use the sequential logic in order to determine the present state of the FSM. And as and when we are talking about this output logic, right, what this output logic has to do, as and when the FSM enter into the particular state, it has to generate the output. Output may be 1 or it may be 0. So look at this sequence detector. Look at this FSM. Can you tell me which type of FSM I am using, Murray or Mealy? Look at this state diagram. Can anybody answer which type of FSM I want to implement over here?
Some Murray.
It is Murray, because you can see the output will depend upon the current state only. It does not depend upon value of input. Am I right? It only depends upon value of current state, right? So over here, as and when state value reaches to 1 1, the output must be 1. If my state value is 0 1 1 0 or 0 0, the output must be 0. So basically, this FSM is nothing but it's a sequence detector. Which sequence it has to detect? 1 1. So as and when sequence 1 1 is detected, output must be 1. Are you reading? So how one can able to implement this particular sequence detector using Verilog, that you need to understand. So look at this. Which are the ports? Which are the IOs of this FSM? Can I say one of the input port is reset, another one is clock, and apart from that, if I talk about my output port, I need to declare one output port as a out P. And in order to do the state transition from one state to other state, I will also have to use I will have to use the input. So it is like this. At the reset, the beginning state is 0 0, right? If the beginning state is 0 0 and if the input is 1, then the next state will be 0 1. But if the input is 0, then the next state will be 1 0. Similarly, if right now the FSM is in the state 1 0, and if the value of input is 1, then the next state will be 0 1. And if value of input is 0, then accordingly the next state will be decide. Fine. So how to write the Verilog SDL code for this? You can see clock, reset, and input. They are declared as an input port, and this out P is declared as an output port. Now this sequence detector is having total 4 states. Right? So to store the state, you can see I have used one variable whose name is state itself, and I have used the data type range, right? And the size I have declared over here is 2-bit. You can see 1 to 0. So that is the size allocated to this variable whose name is state. So look at this logic. The logic is, you can see, very simple. In the always block, I have written pausage of clock and pausage of reset, right? So what this Verilog code is checking, first of all, it will check for the reset. You can see if there is a reset, then the FSM will be enter into the state 0 0. So look at this. If reset, then the state is a variable, right? Then the FSM will be enter into the state 0 0. 2, then B stands for binary, right? If there is no reset, so that's why I have used over here the keyword else. Then we will have to check the value of current state. If value of current state is 0 0, look at this. If value of current state is 0 0, and if value of input is 1, then what should be the next state? 0 1, right? So I have used over here the case statement, and using this I am checking the value of state. If it is 0 0, and if my input is 1, then what should be the next state? 0 1. Sorry. Then what should be the next state? 0 1. But if value of input is 0, look at this. If value of input is 0, then what should be the next state? 1 0. So look at this. If value of input is 0, then the next state is 1 0. Okay. So this is a purely combinational logic which is developed by using the case statement. Similarly, if the current state is 0 1, and if input is 1, look at this FSM. If the current state is 0 1, and if the input is 1, then what should be the next state? Look at this, 1 1. But if input is 0, then the next state should be 1 0. So like that way, you can see over here I have defined the logic for the state 1 0. I am checking the value of input. If input is 1, next state will be 0 1. If input is 0, next state will be 1 1 as per this diagram. So I have considered all the 4 states. This is the end of this case statement. This is the end for this if loop, and this is the end for this always statement. Now, what is remaining? Can anybody tell me? Up to so far, what I have discussed, that is the logic. That is the logic to determine the next state. Now, what is remaining as far as the implementation is concerned?
So we have not given the value to the output.
Yeah, fine. So now over here, you can see, look at this logic. What I am doing over here, I have once again used the always keyword. So in my code, I have used this always keyword 2 times. By using this, I have written the logic for the next state. Now, by using this always keyword, what I am doing, I am assigning the value to the output port, whose name in my code is outp. Fine. So look at this. This is the beginning of always block. If there is a reset, then what should be the value assigned to the output port? 0. Else if the state value is 1 1, if the state value is 1 1, look at my requirement. When the output must be 1 whenever the state the FSM will be in the state 1 1, right? So whenever the FSM is in the state 1 1, output this output will be 1. In rest of the condition, output will be 0. So this is the logic written in order to generate the output, or I can say it's an output logic, right? First it will check the reset condition, then it will check the state transition. If the current state is 1 1, then logic 1 is assigned to the output port. In rest of the condition, logic 0 is assigned to the output port. Fine. This is the end of this always block, and this is the end in the sense this is the end of this module. So normally at the end we are writing this keyword end module. Now, any question over here? Anyone is having? Is it understood, by the way? See, instead of implementing this Murray machine, if I want to implement Mealy machine or Mealy FSM, can you tell me the changes in this Verilog code? What I should do? I hope you are aware with the difference between Murray and Mealy this machine. Fine. So can you tell me the modification in the existing code?
Yes, sir. Sir, we will assign the output value in the first always statement only, where the states are being changed. So we
Fine.
can
So
update the output also there.
okay, so what do you want to say? That only single always block is required. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Right. And you will have to write this logic as a part of this always block itself. Right? Are you reading? So yes, you are absolutely right that this, because as and when we are talking about this Mealy machine, your output will be depend upon current state as well as it depends upon the current input. Fine. So over here the modification is like this. As and when the current state is 1 1, and as and when the value of input is 1, at that time this output port must be having the value 1. Over here it must be having the value 0, right? So by that way easily you can also implement the Mealy FSM. Yeah, any questions from your side? So I hope now you are aware with the Verilog how you can able to use various modeling technique, how you can able to write the Verilog code, how you can able to simulate it using the EDA tool like Quartus 2. In the next lab, we are planning to demonstrate you one another rather very popular tool, which is ModelSim. Right? We will also demonstrate the difference between these two tools, Quartus 2 and ModelSim, that in which situation which tool is preferred. Right? So that we will discuss in the next lab session. In the lab session which is related to verification. Yeah, any question from your side? We are happy to answer your questions if you are having. No, then we will end today's session. If you want to suggest any, if you want to suggest anything, you are welcome. Okay, fine. Otherwise, we will stop over here. I hope you are aware with the schedule of tomorrow's session. 3 expert sessions are there, starting from 9:30 a.m. Right, and if you talk about the morning session, it is related to DFT. The afternoon session, which is related to FinFET, and the session which is scheduled after at the time of 3 p.m. it is related to physical design. So all the sessions are I can say very useful to you, right? So please attend them, and please be interactive throughout the session. Okay, so I'll end today's session. Thank you.